everybody, and welcome to um, the Press Box, Sports from the Bird's Eye View. I'm Laurie Davis, broadcasting to you from Drayton Valley, Alberta, and over to the other Eagle Eyes.
Thanks, Lori. It's Doug Smith broadcasting from the shores of the Ottawa River. I actually just came in from the river. I had to plow off all the light snow that came down because it's going up to 6 degrees here in Ottawa. The
Wow.
ice is, we've got about 12 inches of ice. So there's tons of ice, but there's going to be this massive thaw. And I suspect, based on how hot it's going to get, that the whole river will become a perfect sheet of ice. Like, and it's rare. It happens maybe every decade. So I got to
Oh,
get the
wow.
grandkids over.
Oh, yeah. In a
Yeah.
pair of skates. Wow.
Yes, yes, yes. Very exciting.
Right. Well, I'm actually coming to you from my imaginary California home um, this morning. So I have a nicer background because my studio is still being occupied. So that's all right. We can still be here and do our thing. So we just want to, first of all, welcome our guests. And you can actually post messages if you've joined us live on the Disability Channel Facebook page. You can actually message us and we can pay attention to those messages and make comments and let us know who you are. So good morning. Our show is on every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern. It gets recorded, edited, and then it goes to all many places. So thank you for being here. Doug,
Yeah,
what's on your mind? Like, what are we going to talk about this morning? I do have to express our regrets. We did have a guest for today, but they are under the weather and could not be here this morning. And we just like to have our guests at their very best. So we just say, don't worry about it. Doug and I can handle it.
hey,
So
this is an ongoing story.
yes.
Everything that's happening around us is because of the work that we've been doing over the years,
Mhm.
and getting ready and positioned to be able to help people with recovery and performance, or performance and recovery, like
Mhm.
whichever one it is, because performance and recovery are the exact same word. Whether you've suffered from a catastrophic physical injury, or you're suffering from a cumulative emotional injury, there's tools out there that can help you get better, because if you don't use your subconscious mind to heal, you're going to be in a healing state forever. You're really never going to get better. So we try to help you with the subconscious to drive your healing process, and understanding that is a fun process, because every step along the way you get little tiny improvements. And then what happens is, once you start to understand this stuff, there's these cascades that happen, and you begin to heal. And so the work that I've done, it there's so many people and guests that we're going to have on that have used this to not become the best, but to put a process in place that helps them get better.
Mhm.
So that's what we're doing here. And if you have any thoughts or ideas, and you're watching the show or tuning in, or you have a friend that really needs help and it's been a disaster for them and they're in a lot of pain, please have them reach out. They can get to me at dougsmithperformance.com, and they can reach you too, Lori.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is live right now. Yes, it is. Thank you for asking. We're live right now. So, and then the show will be recorded and archived and sent out to many social platforms. So, we just had that question. Someone just asked us if it was live. So, when it comes to the healing, I've got a couple of comments I'd like to make, Doug. You
Oh,
brought something up there for me. Um, healing can become extremely addictive for people. Did you know that?
oh.
If because when we're busy healing, it feels good. And so we want to go back for more and more. And it's almost like a cross addiction. If I've had an addiction and I've let it go and I start my healing journey, as people call it, well, a journey can be like 1,000 miles. And we need to know how to not make that an addiction itself. Healing can be addictive.
Hmm.
And recently, I was invited to reconsider some of the work I do, and it was renamed actually right now for a process I'm using with a particular client who's here for 30 days, and that is trauma informed healing.
Hmm.
So, in other words, a lot of people, as you know, don't even realize that they've been traumatized.
Hmm.
And
Well, and there's a
go
question that's come up, how to handle shame and past history. Well, these two things, just so you're aware, are symptoms of
Yes.
trauma. So you
Yeah.
don't focus in. If you just stop and think and pick up some of the work that's being done right now and look to my work, even I explain how the symptoms draw you in and make you feel good about solving them. But there's something over here called the cause that's causing the symptom. And if you don't treat the cause,
Mhm.
and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more in the show. So
Yeah.
don't focus on the symptoms. That's the rule with shame and past history. That that stuff should be invisible to you. And there's ways that you can make it invisible just by the way you think.
Right. Well, I'd like to address that too. Good question. How to handle shame and past history.
Mm,
Actually, shame and guilt. Guilt is when we do something wrong and we feel guilty about it. That's a good thing because that means you have a conscience and you understand, moral conduct and all of that. Where the shame comes in is when we take it on personally. So, for example, let's say when you were a kid and you stole a chocolate bar from a corner store and you went home and your mom found out and she made you take it back and apologize, and there was maybe a consequence. But shame would come into that if the family decided that now you are a thief and now you have a label and you should be ashamed of yourself.
mm,
You see, it
mm.
becomes innate that way and it's internalized. It's like guilt internalized. So I remember my mom saying to me, I don't know, Doug, if your mom ever said it, but I remember my mom looking at me. I was probably 6, and she says, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And I was thinking, what? I haven't done anything yet. I'm only 6. But
Well, it causes this reaction,
yeah,
and there's
yeah,
so many questions like this because don't we all walk around feeling like there's something wrong with us? I don't think
that's
anybody's immune to that. I haven't met anybody
no,
yet, and I ask people all the time, and it's my work. And so I've never met a person that doesn't walk around feeling like there's at least some one thing wrong with them, and it's just not necessary. It's not a requirement.
no, not at all. Because and another thing, I'm glad you're using that because it's really important for people to understand certain things that are not their fault. When we're children, we don't have a way to defend ourselves and we don't have any filters. So
Mm,
we take everything in. So, for example, if my parents are fighting, it must be my fault because children think the world revolves around them.
mm,
So, if my parents get a divorce, oh my gosh, maybe it was my fault. And so we internalize a lot of things that are not even ours. So one of the processes that we do in my world is we separate that and go, okay, this happened. Was it your fault? You were sexually abused as a child. Who was the dysfunctional person? You? I don't think so. So we help people to process that so that they can send the proper message to themselves, which then comes into your work, you know, rebuilding that subconscious mind and training it to understand that, separating that shame. That's a really good question. I don't know who asked
yes.
that. Ho Hawk Man. Ho Hawk Man. Thank you.
And it's the management process. The way
Yes.
things are going with science and the neuroscience right now is the Apple Watch handles all your physical capabilities, but it hasn't yet tapped into being able to handle your subconscious mind or your thinking. It hasn't been able to manage that for you so that it screams red, don't do that. But that's the type of thing that's going to be coming forward in the next 5-10 years are the tools to be able to just better manage it, because this thing called trauma, it will always be with you. Okay, you're never going to get rid of it, but it does not have to control you.
Right.
So you need a management system so that it doesn't get you distracted from the things that you're doing on a daily basis and just rip your heart out every morning you wake up. So Anthony Robbins talks about state, which is completely, I agree with Anthony Robbins stuff, but at the same time you have to be managing your subconscious mind to be able to move your body into something that's going to get you in a different physical state.
Right. I
Happy to
agree
have that
totally.
debate with Anthony too. Like
Oh, me
he
too.
was in Venice Beach. Anthony Robbins lived in Venice Beach. He was just starting out when I was playing for the Los Angeles Kings in 1981. Tony Robbins was right there. We used to cross paths all the time,
Yeah,
but
well, you know
we
what?
never
Yeah,
we never met. I'm just
I
he's
know.
one guy I'd love to meet.
Right on. Yeah. And when we come back from the break, I just came up with a really good question for you based on what you were sharing. Because when you were playing hockey,
Hmm.
when we come back, we've got a couple of minutes yet, but if you want to get started on that and then a little break and come back. But when
Sure.
you were playing hockey,
Hmm.
that sport, okay, so let's talk about our athletes. They're in the sport, they're on the basketball court, they're on the hockey, they're on the ring, in the ring. What part did your subconscious mind play at that part of your life?
Reaction speed.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, you're conditioned, right? You're conditioned everything you do is based on reacting and conditioning, and you know trying to manage how other people feel. It's a real disaster when it comes to mental health because you're taught to knock people down, intimidate them, and take what they have. I was really excellent at that. And then all of a sudden it ended and I went out on the street. What am I supposed to do? That's why there's so many problems. That's why 80% are divorced, bankrupt, or in addiction counseling within 5 years. So it's
Wow.
because they can't the numbers are off the charts. And I've spent a tremendous amount of time doing research around the NHL alumni, et cetera. So
Hmm.
football's worse, basketball, they all have a different demographic, but everything they do is based on reacting to something,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And try to live your life outside of sports with that mental attitude. You'll go crazy. People will turn you upside down and empty your pockets,
Yes, yes.
and that's what
And
happens to them.
oh, yeah, for sure. And that's another purpose of our show, which we're going to talk about when we come back after our break. Um, One of the purposes of the show is to do a deep dive rather than going, he shoots, he scores kind of sports show.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to look at behind the scenes, inside the body, inside the mind, and support you with special guests who will be coming in to talk about these various components of being in that body of a former athlete or a veteran who has suffered tremendous trauma.
And some of
And
the guys I played with, like some amazing players, like Tiger Williams and Mario Lemieux, and friends like Clint Malarchuk, and guys who have been through such extreme trauma, even compared to me, a broken neck and spinal cord injury. I tell you, some of these guys have suffered like my injuries pale in comparison.
yeah, and the thing we'll caution you about is we can't tell their stories, but we'll have them on so they can tell their stories.
Oh, and they're friends. They're brothers.
But
Like
you know,
we've supported
yeah,
each other. So and it's great. That
yeah,
they're
for
involved
sure.
as well.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Well, I think we're going to take a little break. And Lewis, are you on deck? And we'll get our breath. And then when we come back, we have 4 questions we're actually going to answer today from our perspective. So we'll be back in a minute. Over to you, Lewis.